On today's show, do the Dallas Mavericks need to change when Luka plays? And should they make a change to the starting lineup? Are the role players good enough? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow this show is to comment anything below. Let us know, what's the biggest change the Mavs need to make going forward? The biggest change. Joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the mailbag moocher, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Great timing for the Mavericks, because now we're going to face this Brooklyn Nets team coming up tonight. You're listening to this on a Thursday morning. This Nets team just lost in Milwaukee, so now they have to travel overnight back to Brooklyn. Not a long ways away, but still back to back. And they're 1-3 right now. So
they don't have good vibes. For a team that their star player wanted the coach and the GM fired over the offseason, they don't have good vibes. I just don't know what it is about them.
But yeah, hopefully Dallas can get back on track and avoid going 1-3 like the Nets are.
It's been a day. We washed the last game away. Like, we don't need to worry about last game, all that. Let's talk about some of your questions. So today we're going to answer some of your questions that you guys sent in about Luka Doncic. Should they change his minutes? Should they change the rotation for him to be better in the fourth quarters? What can we expect from Spencer Dinwiddie? Should they change the starting lineups? Are the role players around Luka good enough? There's all questions we're going to get to today. Let's start with the first one. Eurochuck sends in, does Luka need to change his minute structure? Seems like he's always burnt out by the fourth quarter.
Well, one, this isn't Luka's like ultimate decision. This is a coaching thing of hey,
be able to touch the car.
Do the Mavs need to change his minute structure? Now, I guess my question is like, what do you want it to be? You know, you have this structure of, all right, he's going to play the whole first quarter, set the first half, the second quarter, play the rest of the half, then comes out in the third, plays the third, sets the first half, the fourth, generic here kind of, and then finishes the game. What do you kind of want? Do you want him not to play the third and just play the whole fourth? Or
so this question comes at, all right, let's identify what the problem is, or what Eurochuck and some others think that the problem is, that he's burned out by the fourth quarter. Okay, well, he sits the whole beginning of the fourth quarter, right? Like, if you want him ready for key minutes in the fourth quarter, what better than to sit him at the beginning of the fourth quarter? So I don't really understand the nature of, well, he's burned out by the fourth quarter. So then the answer would be, if we change the minute rotation around, he would play more in the fourth quarter and be more burnt out by then. But maybe he doesn't expel as much energy in the third quarter, so then he's able to play more minutes in the fourth quarter. I just think that overall, changing his minutes is not going to be the answer to fix some of these things. We've seen this work for a long time with Luka. We've seen, unless you want his like total minutes to go down, and it's like he's averaging like 34 these first three games, which you're saying it should go down.
Well, kind of. I mean, I don't know if I want Luka playing 30 minutes a game. Like, he could play a little bit more.
Giannis does it. Giannis does it, and it works really well for him. And you know why? Because they take care of business.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument for the roster being better too. But I mean, if you wanted to shed like some of the third quarter off his, depending on the game flow and stuff, it's like instead of playing the whole third, maybe plays like 10 out of the 12 minutes or something like that. Sure, but it'd be different if he played the entire fourth and he played like half of the third. Yeah. And you're like, all right, what can we switch up? Does he have to play the whole fourth? He looks gassed at the. I just think that this is the best game plan for him.
I don't know if this was Carlisle or Kidd, but I remember at times when they would sit Luka a little bit early in the third quarter, like not play the entire third quarter. He would sit at like the 2 minute mark or the 150 or 130 minute mark just to give him that little extra time in the third quarter so he can play more in the fourth quarter. That's the only thing I would change, but it all depends on the game flow. Like, yeah, in that Pelicans game, maybe you want him playing a little bit more in the fourth, but I would argue you'd rather just have him come out swinging in the third quarter and maybe put that team away. The team just didn't do it, right? So I don't think this is as big of a problem as some people are making it out to be. The team just wasn't good enough in it. And so you can talk about rotations and things all you want, but the team's just got to be good enough and come ready to play in those minutes. Now, playing Wood with Luka, that's a different question that I think we'll talk about maybe a little bit later. Another question from Chad. Why is Luka taking over 10 3-point attempts, even though he's literally unguardable in the mid-range, in the post, or driving to the basket? Why is he taking over 10 threes a game, Isaac?
I mean, it's just settling on his part. It's not... I don't think it's a game plan thing. The highest he's ever averaged was last year at last year's 8.8 and his sophomore season was 8.9. But, over 10 threes, it's a little too much. I agree. I agree with the question, especially for a guy that's so lethal when he gets into the paint. It feels like he can get to the rim at will. But I mean, we said it on last pot. I thought he just played into their game plan the other night in New Orleans of, they switched. They left him, one-on-one a lot with Nance, Valanciunas, whatever. Najee Marshall, he took him to the post. But some of those guys, it's just like, hey, for him, I'm just going to do step back, or step aside three right in these big guys' faces because I know I can get the space. And yeah, I think in hindsight, he might agree that he should have, gotten to the paint a little bit more. And yeah,
Here are the top, like, what is this? 8 players in 3-point attempts per game so far in this young season. Steph Curry is number 1. That makes sense. Luka, Damian Lillard, Gary Trent Jr., Desmond Bane, Anthony Simons, Buddy Hield, and LeBron James. Okay, tell me what's the difference between 2 of those 8 players. 2 of these players are trying to drag their team to wins at certain points and forcing the issue on a lot of things. And so, yeah, I'm with Chad on this question. I don't know why he's taking that many. He's being asked to carry a big load on offense. He's got the highest usage rate in the NBA. Now he also has the highest PER in the NBA. I don't know if you knew that, but he's got the highest usage in the NBA right now, and it's just got to go down. And he's got to be able to know that he can take advantage of some of those other matchups. And honestly, I think some of this is on coaching staff to run some other stuff, play some other stuff. It just seems like when Luka's out there, it's Luka ball or nothing. And every once in a while, you got to throw something in there for the lulls of a third quarter or the lulls of the middle of a first quarter to just mix it up a little bit, it seems like.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Still could be early in the season. They still are bringing in JaVale and Christian Wood that probably don't know the whole playbook yet and all that kind of stuff. So these things take a little bit of time to start working out. But at this point, 3 games into the season, that's what it seems like it is at this point. I'll throw this quick one to you. Hardy Woodaway says, will the media acknowledge Luka's defense?
No.
What way do you think Hardy Woodaway means this? Like that he plays good defense? Or because I thought he did play some pretty good defense against the Grizzlies, but so did everybody.
No, I mean, I just think, as sucky as it is, once you kind of establish a narrative like that, it's hard for because realistically, national people's not going to watch every single minute of every game for every player. So
that's why you got us.
Yeah, and that's why this network was birthed.
That's right. That's right.
Locked on, baby. But no, I don't think they ever will. It's gonna be same thing goes for like Trae Young. I mean, it took you know what it's gonna take. It's gonna take him playing at a good defensive level on the highest stage in the finals, because I think that's what happened with Steph.
Yes,
people saw him in the playoffs and big moments too much or more, and it's like he's not that bad defensively. Whenever he had that reputation earlier, but it's got to be on the big stages.
Yeah, absolutely. The taste of Luka playing defense the way that he did against the Warriors is not going to wash out easily. So I think that's the answer to that question. Coming up, are Dorian and Reggie Bullock good enough for the Mavericks to contend for a title this year? A more interesting question than I thought when I first read it. We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is interesting. It is a daily fantasy game that you can check out. And you can go see what the over-unders are for each different player on the Mavericks or on other teams in the NBA. For example, in this game tonight, you can go quarter by quarter. Right now they have quarters available in the NBA fourth quarter. So you can check it out during games as well. I didn't even know that. I just opened up the website and all of a sudden I see I can go right now. Jokic, fourth quarter points, 6.5. And I can go LeBron, 7.5. I can go over, under that. Let's say I want to go over for Jokic, under for LeBron. If I put down $20, I win $60. It's that easy on PrizePicks. You're not playing against professionals or a bunch of other people that just sit around and spend all their time trying to win these games. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less in their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times in any entry. Download the PrizePicks app, go to prizepicks.com, play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can get 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's the PrizePicks app, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Isaac Harris, let's answer some more of these mailbag questions. Are Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock good enough for the Mavericks to contend for a title this year?
I hate to take an easy way out on this one, but you added more to the question there. It depends with this current roster. This is the question from Serbster. Are Doe Doe and Bullock good enough if the Mavs intend to compete for a title this year?
Yes.
There's so many layers to this because it depends on the other pieces around them. Because I think they are good enough to be winning starters on a championship team.
Both of them together starting.
If Luka has a clear number 2 next to him in the starting lineup. For instance, if you put these two guys on, let's just say the Lakers right now, they are better than everybody else on their team with, alongside like AD and LeBron, they would be great, right?
Yeah.
Like playing their roles, defense, hitting threes, and that would elevate the Lakers so high. I'm not saying they'd win a title, but that's the thing is, I think once again, I'm not worried about some of these role players. We've said this for like 3 years. I think Dorian and Reggie are awesome. It just comes down to, is Spencer Dinwiddie or Christian Wood, are they good enough to be the clear number 2 to raise like this team to a title? That's the thing.
I think these guys are good enough. I think there's a lot of questions about role players right now. And we're 3 games into a season, and they only played 3 preseason games too. They didn't get a lot to warm up into this season. And say that's an excuse and say that's, pandering to the team, whatever. I think that these guys need a little bit to warm up. Their roles are so physically involved that they need more time to warm up into the season, to get their legs under them. How many times throughout the playoff run did we talk about how Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock, their superpower was their legs and their wind, and how they can just like run through anything, and how they just can play so many minutes and play so hard and all that kind of stuff? That takes a little time to work into. I don't know if you can work yourself into that and be ready right away for the season to start. Like, I just don't think that happens. There's a certain level of athlete and athleticism you have to get to in a season to be able to play the way that they did last year. And that's the way that they'll have to play if the Mavericks do intend to compete for a title.
Like, what do you want? Like, I guess my question back was like, what else do you want from those two guys?
I understand the nature of the question because they didn't look great against the Pelicans. We're 3 games into a season whenever these dudes played like almost every single minute of a playoff run that went to the conference finals. We asked for mailbag questions. We asked for mailbag.
Anyway, what's the next one?
All right, Alex said, at what point do the Mavs consider bringing Dorian or Reggie off the bench?
No point.
Never.
No, I don't think so.
Wow. Now I think we got to play this for you.
I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more.
By the way, that drop is Jason Kidd telling me about Reggie Bullock last year. I asked him why he only played 17 minutes the first 2 games of the season, and he said that.
I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more.
And we've gotten so much run out of that sound drop, and I love it.
I mean, you can play it now. People think you're talking about Christian Wood.
Hey, I've used it for Christian Wood.
I think these 2 guys have to start more than Dinwiddie. More than JaVale. I mean, I think they have to start. Both of those guys. They have to.
Make your case. Why more than Dinwiddie? Because Dinwiddie would be the other playmaker. We've seen how much a secondary playmaker next to Luka matters, but why did those guys have to start more so than Dinwiddie?
I think it's just important that you have to have 2 defenders on the floor. You're going against, there's too many teams out there that have a really good point guard or a really good guy on the perimeter. And it's like, you take one of those guys off, then who are you asking? You're asking Dinwiddie at that point. Just like a few years ago, they had asked Tim Hardaway to be the second defender. It's like, it just can't happen. And I like Dinwiddie a lot, but I like the starting unit they have now, but I just think there's no world in which Reggie or Dorian can't start. Like, they have to start. If you want to bring Christian Wood into the starting lineup and keep JaVale, then you put Dinwiddie on the bench and you bring Christian Wood in. Or, I mean, obviously the natural one is JaVale for Christian Wood, but those two guys have to start, in my opinion.
Yeah. How many times throughout the playoff run? I'll just keep going back to that because that's the most successful we've seen this team. The Mavs' identity is still wrapped up in Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock. The way that they can defend, the way that they can hold their own, the way that they can set the tone, the way that they can hit threes and hit open threes, like that, just all that fits so well. And there's a couple of comments in our post game against the Pelicans where they were like, "Well, we're asking Luka to do so much," and Dorian and Bullock, Isaac was saying that that Luka needs to get them involved more early on, like they can't make their own offense. That's the way the team's set up. That's the way it's set up. That's the way it is, right? Like, they don't have another guy out there. They don't have another all-star. They don't have another guy, like, for as much as we love Dinwiddie, he's not another all-star out there that can get his own shot and that can do that on an all-star level, like on an all-NBA type level.
And they don't have another wing on the bench that gives them a different type of look. Like, what if they had like a healthy Joe Ingles on the bench and you're like, well, okay, Joe Ingles can handle the ball a little bit more. He could play a little. Like, what if they swapped him? Like, that's not even a debate because that guy's not on the roster. Like, Josh isn't that different. Like, so they don't really have another wing that you can say offer something different.
Okay, so you talked about a couple of different starting lineup iterations. Shaking My Bacon says, would you start Wood and Maxi, put Dinwiddie and Dinwiddie and JaVale go to the bench, puts 4 shooters around Luka, basically guarantees a good start on offense. All 5 are switchable on defense. So would you, if you were going to change the starting lineup, would you go with Wood and Maxi starting with Dinwiddie coming off the bench, JaVale coming off the bench, and that's the lineup that you just start with?
No. Well, one, he said a phrase in there that's not true. They're not all 5 switchable at that point. So
they are switchable. It's just a matter of how effective they are at switching.
Yeah. Here's something that I don't think people's talking about JaVale enough when it comes to like going to the bench and all this. It kind of goes with the Dwight Powell thing. Like, in order to maximize what you're going to, JaVale hasn't had a good start to the season at all. But in order to maximize a guy like JaVale, a guy like Dwight Powell, you need them more than Christian Wood to play with Luka. Like, I'm scared. Like, JaVale hasn't looked good, but I'm also kind of scared what JaVale would look like without Luka on the floor. And you also committed 3 years to him. So that's the type of thing of, I'm not ready to make a starting lineup change. It's way too early. It's 3 freaking games. So let's wait a little bit longer. If we're like 2-8 after 10 games, let's do this thing. Let's switch it up. But I'm not ready for that yet.
You think that they're able, like, let's say they are 2-8 after 10 games. You're willing to wait till that point.
Yeah. I need to be more than 1-2 to change up my whole rotation.
What if they're 1-5?
Yeah, I mean, we can, entertain it then. If the numbers are still the same and Christian Wood numbers still the same, once again, I don't care that much about starting that much. It's more of JaVale played 12 minutes the other night. Christian Wood played 30. So I don't, it's not the end of the world to me about who starts. It's who finishes and plays on the fort. That's what matters. Coming
up, let's talk about JaVale McGee. You mentioned him a couple times there, and there's a couple of questions people have about JaVale McGee. How long is his leash? Should he continue to start? Should Dwight Powell make a return to the starting lineup? There's a lot of questions about that, and then we'll answer some more of your questions coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. For your next listen today, go check out the Game to Game NBA podcast. Great stuff. Recaps of every NBA game from local experts. It's on the Locked On NBA podcast and the Locked On NBA YouTube feed. Go check it out, NBA Game to Game. All right, Isaac, let's talk about JaVale McGee. Alex says, how long is JaVale, a.k.a. Joel?
JaVale.
How long is JaVale's leash before Kid has to consider slashing his minutes due to him looking much slower and older than I think most expected?
That the last part's true. He has looked slower and older than we expected, but I think the leash is still pretty long. I think you bring in a vet that he has experience with, he has a relationship with. Like, you need more than 3 games to make it.
Also, Slash's minutes, he's playing less than Josh Green right now.
I know. That's why. Yeah.
He's averaging the same amount of minutes that Campazzo has played so far for the Mavericks. 13. Like he's
and
not.
Let's go ahead and bring the Dwight question into this too.
Yeah. Dirkster says he said JaVale McGee too.
Joel.
If JaVale McGee continues to play, do you see Dwight Powell being resurrected, being put back in the starting lineup?
No, I don't.
You just
not right now.
You wanted me to bring up that whole question for you to say no.
Not right
do
now.
Do you wear Vigs? No, I do not. Have you worn wigs? No, I do not.
A few weeks from now, let's see what it looks like. But once again, you signed him for 3 years. It's not the worst contract in the world either. He's making $5 million. Like, come on. But still, you did sign him for 3 years.
Make it half of what Dwight Powell's making to not play.
And you did promise him the starting role to go from, hey, after 3 games to go from, hey, you're playing 12 minutes to nothing, and now you're a cheerleader. I'm like, that's not cool right now. So
I think the warm up into the season thing is for JaVale McGee too. He's 34. He's going to be 35 soon. Like that. It takes a little while to get into a season for a guy like that too.
I also think he's become a little bit of a scapegoat for some people too. It's like 3 games. We've lost 2 of these games by like a very small margin, and we're fine. We're looking at JaVale's 12 minutes saying, there you go.
It's the Dallas Mavericks Memorial starting center spot that gets the scapegoat, right?
And I agree. Like, I'm not trying to he's had a bad start to the season, worse than I thought that he would, but I'm not. Yeah. Anyway,
here's a question about Christian Wood. Connor says, does Christian Wood become an all-star at this rate?
I mean, at this rate, if he continues what he's doing now and he's still like top 10 PER and like all this stuff,
yeah.
I mean, he would have to be. Do I think it's going to happen coming off the bench? No, I don't.
He is 10th in the West in scoring right now. There's 10 players scoring 24 points or more a game in the West right now, and he's one of them.
Off the top of your head, can you remember somebody? I mean, there's probably somebody very clear that I'm just not thinking of that came off the bench.
Ginobili did.
Was an all-star. Was that the last one? But I mean, he's putting up insane efficiency right now. So it would be if he kept.
Kobe did it. Kobe did it one of his first years. Yeah, Kobe did one of his first years with the Lakers.
Okay, well, that was a long time ago. So you know what? If he kept up at this rate, which is a crazy rate, then yes, he has to be considered. Is this rate sustainable coming off the bench? I don't know.
I think it's not sustainable because he's shooting 60% from 3.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Let's be fair about that, right? Like that's not going to be sustained. But can he become more efficient in other areas? Of course. I think the Mavericks, there's a couple of plays every game now that we've seen where they just don't connect because they don't know each other yet. They're still trying to figure it out. They played 2 preseason games with Luka, and now they've played 3 regular season games. One of them was a blowout, so you don't really learn that much in a blowout because you just go out there and they beat the brakes off of the Grizzlies and didn't have to try too hard, right? So you don't learn a ton in that game. You had a tough fought game against the Suns. That was a really good learning experience. And then this weird Pelicans game. So I'm not taking too much from that, and in the sense of long-term learning. Couple of team questions. Adrian wants to know, Nick and Isaac, do you see the Mavericks firing on all cylinders when the team is totally healthy?
Who are we missing?
I was going to say, okay, so Adrian's literally just asking about Tim missed 1 game. Frank has missed all 3 games. So is Frank the key that unlocks the Mavericks roster?
No. I mean, we don't even know if he's going to play at all. So Vaku's on the team now. So I don't even know what Frank's role is. So, I mean, I hope so. I'm not ready to say no, but I don't think health is the thing I'm saying, oh, let's just see about health right now. No.
Yeah, it's not about the Mavericks aren't just sitting around waiting for somebody to come back. They're not waiting for Kawhi Leonard to ramp up more minutes like the Clippers are, right? They're not waiting for Chris Middleton to come back from injury like the Bucks are right now. They're not one of those teams that they've got everybody. Tim Hardaway was out for I don't know what you would call that. It's like a maintenance game, I guess you would call it, because he hurt his foot last year and they just wanted to make sure that he's okay. And so yeah, they held him out for that. Frank's been out. Davis has been out. You're not missing enough for me to think that, okay, as soon as those guys come back, it'll be complete.
Bertans is the key to it all.
They could use his shooting, I guess, but other than that, Mavs Panama says, what was Nico's plan about the third ball handler again?
I honestly still think it was a trade. It was a trade, and I still think it will be a trade.
Do the thing.
What?
Do the thing.
I'm not doing the thing.
He told us on Media Day that we asked him, who's the third ball handler? What's the plan for a third ball handler? So people forget about Frank, think about this. And also, we have an open roster spot. So they brought in,
do you forget about Frank?
So they brought in Campazzo. Is he the answer? I guess he's the answer for right now, but he's on a non-guaranteed deal. So they can still make a deal, waive him.
Yeah.
Have the open roster spot. It's all still on the table. Like the Facu signing doesn't change any of that, I don't think.
No. And I think somebody wrote a question, or I thought I saw one about, hey, when do the Mavs make a trade if they make one, whatever. At this point, they're just waiting on some of these tanking teams to lower the price, I think. It's just, I think everybody's saying, hey, it doesn't look like it right now because the Spurs and Jazz and some of these teams are winning. But at some point, as the season goes along, we're going to start seeing some historic tanking and some selling off of players for a cheaper cost. And I think the Mavericks, along with other teams, are just going to wait out into that point at this point and saying, all right, if Utah really wants a first for Jordan Clarkson, you know what's going to happen? In a month or so, they're going to lower it to 2 seconds or, whoever it is. So I still don't think the backup guard spot is on the roster right now.
No. And this is so weird. The Jazz are 4-1. The Sixers are 1-4. Like, this is a weird season to start so far.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, there's going to hit a certain threshold where the Jazz, teams like the Jazz, are going to be like, we really want to make the play-in? Like, do we really want to make the play-in? And
Danny ain't just not doing that.
Right? Like, we really want to make the play-in with this roster? Or some of those other teams, like the Sixers, are going to be like, all right, we got to move one of these guys. Like, we got to make a move. We got to make a move because we have to change something because it's just not working what we're doing right now. The Lakers, everybody's waiting on the Lakers to make a move. I think on Zach Lowe's pod, he's been really clear about, well, everybody's holding the Lakers over a barrel right now because they got to make some kind of move because of LeBron with Westbrook and all that. So that's what teams are waiting on right now. And how long does that staring contest last? I don't know. It depends on which team gets desperate first.
Keep staring. It's fun.
Jose asked one of my favorite questions of the night. What NBA Twitter buzzword grinds your gears? I got one for you. I'm ready for it right away. I always am annoyed when someone says something very oddly specific about a player and says, like, Dorian Finney-Smith is so damn good at corner threes. Anytime someone says so damn good, like Isaiah Hartenstein's so damn good at floaters. They're never so that damn good at something. They're like pretty good at it, but it's never like Luka Doncic is just so damn good at scoring, right? Like, that'd be too obvious. It's always something not super obvious, but they say it like it's such an obvious thing that everyone should know, and I can't stand it.
It's such a specific phrase.
I know it is, but I've seen it used so often. I'm like, so damn good. Like, okay. Or something that it wouldn't matter if you were so damn good at or not.
All right, I got a couple.
Oh, I bet you do.
Yeah. And some of these, I love this question because I see things all the time. I'm like, that's just so freaking annoying. But of course, when I see the question, I can't think of some of these things. So I just went to Yoda's Twitter and I was like, what can I say? But
talk soon, Isaac.
One small thing, when a team releases information to everybody and then somebody says, hey, this team told me this, that's kind of tough. But here's some specific phrases.
That's the Sean Highkin bit that he always says, I also got the email from the team. He always tweets that when there's a national.
I was also in the huddle.
I was also included. I was also included
in the media scrum when coach said that, but he said it to me. Here's a couple things. When somebody disagrees with you, do you even watch basketball?
Love that.
That one kills me. That one just absolutely
That's
kills
a great
me.
one.
You don't watch basketball. Do you even watch all of that? This one's a small one. When somebody
I love when someone asks us that.
Yeah,
we do a daily 5 days away. How exposed would we have been at this point if we weren't watching these games?
And
sometimes we make bad takes for sure, but how exposed would we be if we weren't watching these games?
I get a chuckle when I see some YouTube comments. It's like, these guys don't even watch basketball.
I was like, okay.
My wife
We're
would punch you.
We're at least watching the Mavericks. At least.
My wife wishes that was true. Here's another one. When somebody has an opinion or a quote and they really want to like be ahead of the game or a take, and they say, "Hey, you heard it here first." It's like, no, there's no way to prove that, guys. There's no way. Somebody out there has had that same opinion.
Do a little Twitter advanced search and see which one was first. Just type it all out.
Like the Christian Wood thing. I mean, I was ahead of everything. You know, some of the people out there is like, oh, okay. This is a small one too. Pushing the narrative. I love when I get so annoyed.
You can't just call out Reddit Mavs and slightly biased like that.
No. I get annoyed when people come after people like media or fans or whatever it is. Like if you have an opinion about somebody, like I could tweet out today, Luka Doncic. Look at this stat that he's like the best, one of the best things. Like Tim McMahon wrote a great story on Luka being the best isolation scorer in the league.
Yeah.
And then there's like random people. It's like, oh, I see you pushing that narrative, right? I'm like, what? What narrative? What are you talking about?
During the offseason, random day, I tweeted about how Christian Wood, JaVale, and Dwight were like the top, like 3 of the top 7 rim rollers in the NBA last year. And someone was like, oh, here we go, pushing the narrative from the team. Like, you got this fed right from the team to push it out. And I was like, I'm just a dude looking up stats on a random like Thursday.
Yeah. So I just say I enjoy some of that, and
that's a good one.
Yeah, those are a couple more.
Another one I can't stand, the disrespect. Oh, how can you disrespect a player like that?
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean disrespect? I just said, like, I don't think he's a good 3-point shooter, or something about like, I just don't think he's good enough to do this. Oh, the disrespect.
Yeah. And that comes in play with like all-star stuff. Like if Anthony Simons doesn't make the all-star team, you're like, and as Blazers fans, like, people are disrespecting him. Like, all right, who the crap are you going to put him over? Like, what?
I love it when someone doesn't make the dunk contest or like doesn't do the dunk contest. And you're like, they could have just opted out. You know that, right? Like,
yep.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments. What's your Twitter buzzword or YouTube comments buzzword that just grinds your gears that you see in NBA comments, NBA tweets, anything like that? Let us know. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. It's a great show covering all aspects of sports. They had a great World Series preview with both of the hosts that cover the Astros and the Phillies. They had great stuff on Tom Brady, great stuff on Mac Jones, kicking that guy on the Monday Night Football game. Incredible stuff. Go check it out. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
He's out.
Boom.